Good everyone, welcome to today's video. Today it's going to be something a bit more unique. Now, obviously we're on my web browser, not in War Thunder. Today I'm just going to be going over briefly some aircraft that I want to see added to War Thunder. Now, most of these aircraft are going to be Japanese, just to point out, because the Japanese really don't have much compared to other nations. There's going to be one or two Italian, there's going to be a couple of British, and just things like that. I just thought it'd be something unique. Obviously, not everything that I want is on this list that I'm going to be going through, but I just thought I'd do a brief overview as to like what I want to see. So, obviously, if you've got any links of these aircraft already being suggested to War Thunder, please post them below. Or if you want to do some of them yourself, then feel free. So let's jump right in. So we're going to start out with the Mitsubishi Ki-51 attack plane. So this little thing was built, well, its first flight was 1939. Obviously, this is a Wikipedia page. Wikipedia is not the best source, but as we can see, it's got a good top speed for the time, because I think this thing was, it was 1934, was 1939. I do apologize, it was first thing in the morning. I've not long woken up. So it's got two machine guns in the front, but it appears to have been replaced by two 12.7s now. There is a way Gaijin can get away with this without having to build two separate aircraft, and that's to do it how the Key 43 does, or the first one. And that's how you have the regular Key 43 1 and the regular Key 43 2, but you can choose to upgun the Key 43 1 by means of modifications. Maybe you could do it like that. It's also got a tail gun, which will probably do nothing. Small bomb load, but obviously it can also do suicide operations. Now, I'm not saying aircraft should have their suicide operations payload for Japanese aircraft, but if it gives them better payloads, then I don't see why not. You don't have to kamikaze with these things. But so far, just looking up this aircraft, well, as you can see here, on the day Hiroshima was destroyed by an atomic bomb, two of these things were responsible for sinking the last of a US warship, which you can't go wrong with that. I mean, if it served right up until the end of the war, it had a good number built, and well, why not? I mean, it's something unique, it's something interesting, and you don't tend to see a lot of single-engined low-tier attack planes anymore because Gaijin focuses far too much on um, jets, tanks like T-80s, T-90s, and things like that. Obviously, T-90s are not in the game, but still. Now, one thing to point out before I continue, there are going to be no jets on this list. I don't like jets. Just thought I'd make that clear. So this next one, I've actually had to pull up a Google image for. This is the D4Y4. Now, technically, this is a kamikaze variant of the D4Y. But, if we look at these two pictures here, you can see this is the later model of the D4Y4 with no tail gunner. But this is the early one. This right here, this gap here, is the machine guns which are retained on the normal D4Ys, which are two 7.7s. Not certain of their ammo count, I'm guessing about 800 rounds. But I think, obviously, because it's a radio powered Judy, it is going to be faster than regular Judys. But at the same time, you've got to take into consideration the lack of a tail gun. I'm guessing Gaijin will find some way of balancing that, but I don't know. I just think it'd be something interesting. It could carry a single 800-kilogram bomb from what I've been able to find, and it doesn't look too bad. And I mean, it's something unique and interesting. Obviously, we don't tend to have kamikaze aircraft in War Thunder, but we do now have the A6M5 with its kamikaze payload, so why not have a kamikaze aircraft? You don't have to use it in a kamikaze role, and well, yeah, this is just something unique. Next up is probably something that most people are going to be wanting. This is the Ju-86. Now, straight away, this aircraft was mainly reconnaissance. But if we scroll down here, there were bomber aircraft variants from what I've been able to find. And if we go down to here, the R2 variant, it has a single machine gun, which won't really protect it, but because I believe this thing was a medium bomber, it would have a good bomber spawn, it's got reasonable speed, and it's got a good payload from what we can see here. 4 250s, 1650s, or 64 10 kilograms. Now, the 10 kilogram bombs probably won't be added because they're unique to the HE51C1, but the Ju-86 originally was a bit of a nightmare for the British during the war because I think it was the P variant. Yes, it is. It tells me right here. And this aircraft was pretty much untouchable by most British aircraft, but it wasn't until the Mark 5 Spitfire, I think it was. Might have been a Mark 5 or a Mark 9, and then we was finally able to intercept these aircraft. So looking at this thing, it's not too bad. I mean, it's got a good payload. Fair enough, it hasn't got very good defensive armament, but there might be more variants where there are better armament. I don't know. Another one I'd want to see is the J52, but I severely doubt that's going to happen. It is actually in the game files as well, just to point out. Next one is the SM-85. Now, this is an Italian aircraft. This is the only Italian aircraft I have at the moment, but it's just something I wanted. Now, it's an attack plane, just to point out. It's got a single machine gun, either a 12.7 or a 7.7. Maybe they could do separate variants. I don't know. Maybe do it like the Key 43, like I mentioned earlier. It's got a single bomb. It's got good well, it's not got very good engines, actually, thinking about it. But it's got a reasonable top speed. Maybe a battle rate of 1.3 aircraft because it's got no tail gunner. So, why not? I mean, it's something. I mean, it didn't have many built, so maybe it could come as a premium. But you've got to consider that Italy doesn't have much CAS in the lower tiers. It has the BR-20DR, the S-81, but they're quite big and slow. Yes, this thing's quite large, but at least it's more maneuverable than them. That's one thing to take into account. Next up is probably going to be one of the most requested bombers I've seen for a long time of War Thunder. We have the G4M1 Betty. Why not the Neil? Or Nell, or whatever it's called. This is the G3M. Now, this is obviously the predecessor to the G4M. And, well, it has some pretty beastly defensive armament for what I've been able to find. Obviously, Wikipedia lists it as a single 20. I found one where it was like two 20s, but I don't know. It's basically got the same defensive armament as the Betty, but it could carry the same payload, a single torpedo, but it's slightly slower. Obviously, the Betty is at 3.0. Back when I spaded it, which is around about 2 years ago now, it was a very fun plane. It's just the speed wasn't the selling point. The Betty was designed to be fast, but at 3.0 it really can't do much. Especially when the Yak 3s are intercepting you. But I think the G3M2 or something similar could be something that War Thunder could consider. And the reason for this is, well, the G3M has been highly requested for a long time, and we've got the G4M. Why not the G3M? It would make sense. I mean, we have the H6K4 and we have the H8K2 as well as the H8K3. So why not a bit of a downgrade? Downgrades can't be too bad. Maybe put this thing at 2.3, 2.7 because of the lackluster speed. I don't know. Maybe even lower for all I care. But like I say, these aircraft they're not exactly common most of the time, but I just have a high taste of what I want to see in game. Some aircraft that I don't even expect to come into War Thunder are added, such as the KI-108. I didn't think that was going to get ever added, but if we look at that, I had a pretty good time with it, and it was a great aircraft. Not in everyone's eyes. And if you're wondering who everyone's eyes that is, go speak to Jenga about that. Leave a comment saying Joseph2000 sent me saying about the Key 108 as a fighter. He'll understand the banter. Right, so next one is the B4Y Gene, as it is called. Not many of this thing built, but I think this thing was meant to be put on a destroyer or a cruiser and sent out as reconnaissance. Now, the only problem with this aircraft is the fact that it doesn't actually have any forward-facing armament, and it's slow because it's a biplane. Now, obviously, it's only got a single 7.7. It can carry a single torpedo or 500 kilograms of bombs. That's fine. It's just the fact that there's not any forward-facing armament. And as far as I've been able to find, there was no forward-facing armament that was field modified onto this aircraft. That's the only problem with this aircraft. The rest of the aircraft that I've shown you are completely fine. This one's the only one that's got the problem. But hey, we shall see. So the next one is now I know what you're thinking, this is going to be the B5N2, isn't it? No, that's already in the game. But this is going to be for the B5N1. Now, Dark Angel will probably leave a comment about this one, but I've wanted this thing in a game for a while. The B5N2 in War Thunder really doesn't get a lot of usage. Yes, it's got a single stonkingly great bomb, a 250, but what use is that when after you've dropped your single bomb, or maybe the 60 kilogram payload that you carry, what use is that when you've got no forward facing armament and you've only got a single 7.7 in the back, which is about as useful as tits on a fish? The B5N1 were equipped, well, a number of them, according to Wikipedia, were equipped with two 7.7s in the wings. I think it was 1,000 rounds, if I remember rightly. And well, I'm not being funny, the B5N turns like a zero anyway. So why not? It was a great little torpedo plane. It was a good little dive bomber as well. So why not do something like that? I mean, it's just something to give the B5N some character because at the moment I barely see these things. It's just not fair on a plane, I don't think. Our next one's going to be a bit of a controversial one, the Ferry Battle. Now this thing was, let's just say there was a lot of accidents for this aircraft. Most of them were shot down or they crashed because of their bad piloting or their bad handling and things like that. And well, the Ferry Battle didn't have a very good role. It was a good little ground attacker, but it was just too slow. It was too slow, too outdated for the time, and 109s just picked these things off like a shooting range. But I suppose it could be worse. So we do have a single Browning machine gun similar to the Blenheim Mark IV that we have in game already, and a single Vickers K machine gun in the rear. That's fine. That's perfectly adequate. And then we look at the bombs. 1,000 bombs, or 1,000 pounds of bombs internally, 250 pound bombs, or 1,500 pound externally. That's not bad for, let's say, a BR 1.7. Perfectly adequate, perfectly suitable, and as you can see here, yeah, it was very vulnerable. This was obviously in France, according to the picture, and this ferry battle didn't stand a chance. But I think the ferry battle doesn't get a lot of red because of how bad it was in real life, and well, we've just got to see what we can do about it really, because there's a lot of aircraft that War Thunder has been neglecting. Another one is the Ferry, or what is it called? I think it's called the Ferry Albacore, or it's there was one plane that I've remember seeing. It had like a quad tail turret, but it didn't have any forward armament. It was designed to intercept bombers during the Battle of Britain. If you happen to know what it's called, please remind me in the comments. I cannot remember for the life of me. But even so. So the final aircraft, obviously I have not been able to pull up any good images for this aircraft. But it's the Bristol Blenheim Mark 1F. Now, obviously this is a night fighter variant of the Bristol Blenheim. It had a single 7.7 in the starboard wing, as with all Blenheims, and that turret there was a single 7.7 Vickers K as far as I remember. But there was one unique selling point about this Blenheim. Not only could it carry bombs from what I've been able to find, it could also carry a single quad 7.7mm gun pod underneath the fuselage. Now, the images I've been able to find of it, obviously I haven't got any now, but this is before I did this video and looked it up. It basically looks ridiculous with the gun pod on, but having five 7.7s on the bomber, with its good maneuverability of the Blenheim, it could make this thing a formidable threat. Give it an interceptor spawn, with the Blenheim's reasonable climb rate, it could get up to a good altitude. So that pretty much covers it for aircraft that I would want to see. Obviously, this isn't everything, and obviously I think it was the Gene that I went over. That's probably going to struggle because obviously it's got no forward-facing armament, but at least these aircraft could potentially be added as lower tier aircraft, and I'd be excited to see some of these aircraft added because at the moment it's just, oh, supersonic jets, oh, high tier tanks. I'll probably do one on tanks as well because, well, there's still a couple of tanks that I want to see added, and I'll just briefly go over that as well. Anyway, I hope that helps out, maybe even pipes up your spirits for a couple of aircraft that I've suggested. Obviously, the Gene, as I mentioned, that might struggle, but the others, I don't think will do too bad in War Thunder. Anyway, that's it for today, and I will catch you all on the next one.